Hi, I'm Benjamin, also known as Vitamin B, and I'm going to show you how to set up momentary switches and use these to trigger a range of performance effects in Ableton Live. Momentary switches are useful because they allow you to enable an effect for only the length of time that the button is held down. Normally in Ableton Live this acts a little bit differently. When you send a MIDI message from a keyboard, it sends the message once as you press the note, and then when you release the note it doesn't send another message, so you have to then press the note again in order to actually deactivate the effect. So I'm just going to quickly show you what I mean by this. We have a beat repeat effect here, and I'm going to go into MIDI map mode, Command M, and you can see there's actually already a mapping here. Click on this beat repeat on off button and then click one of the notes on my MIDI keyboard. So now that that's mapped, you can see it's mapped to C2. Go out of MIDI map mode, and every time I press the note down it will turn either on or off from the beat repeat. So that's on and then off again when I press it, and then on and then off. Now this means that we can't really make quick changes or enable the effect for a very short amount of time, for example like stutter effects. What we ideally want is that when we press the note down we send a message, and then when we release the note again it sends the same message again, so that we get a really quick turning on and off effect, which we can't achieve here. We're going to have to do that externally from Ableton Live by going to the Audio MIDI effects, Audio MIDI setup, double click on IAC driver and add a MIDI loopback port. It's just an IAC bus. I'm going to call it MIDI loopback so that we can see it in Ableton Live. Now we go into the preferences and you can see here we've got the MIDI loopback IAC driver bus. We're going to use this as a remote, so we're going to receive messages on the input and then we're going to send those messages to the track. Now we're also going to use the keyboard to trigger this. We can't use it as a remote anymore. We're going to send the MIDI messages from the keyboard to a track. So just to summarize that again, the loopback input is set to remote and the loopback output is set to track, and then we also send track messages from the keyboard. Now in order to capture these messages we're going to take two MIDI tracks, select them both, and we're going to take input from the keyboard, monitor that, and then output to the MIDI loopback. These will both now take note in messages. We want to take a note off message, so we're going to take a note length device and add that to one of those MIDI tracks. We're going to set that to trigger on note off, and now we can experiment with this already. You'll see if I press my MIDI key we get a message going in through this side, and then when I release it it goes through this side. I'm going to do that quickly so you can see. And that's the basis of what we're going to do to control this. Now I can go back to this mapping, Command M, you can see it's mapped here, and when I press that MIDI note I'm going to have to remap it. I'm going to press the MIDI note, go out of map mode, and when I press the button I hold it down and it's active, and then I release it and it's deactivated. And we can make really quick changes here, so I can just quickly press this. Now that's all well and good, but what if we want to have more than one different effect? We could actually map every key on the MIDI keyboard to a different effect. So in order to do that I'm going to add an FX bus. That's a new audio channel. Call it FX bus. and we're going to put this beat repeat in there. We're going to make sure that the audio coming from the source goes into this bus and that it doesn't send any audio of its own out, so the audio will come out of here and into this bus and then to the master through the beat repeat. You'll just see this works exactly the same as before for the moment, and you monitor in so that the sound is coming out. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to group the beat repeat so that we have more than one chain. I'm going to call this one repeat and then add a new effect. Let's just duplicate this and call it slowdown. And on this one we'll set the pitch decay so that we have a different effect. I don't anymore want to use the on and off button to control this, so we're just going to turn these both back on. We're actually going to use this repeat button. So the first thing we do is open the macros and assign this repeat to macro 1, and then for the slowdown, that one to macro 2. Now I can turn these on and off. You can see I activate the repeat by turning the macro on. We can MIDI map already, so let's MIDI map two keys, one to repeat and one to slowdown. And name them something less confusing. And now you can see if I press the repeat one, it turns, oops, so I have to turn that one off. I'm activating the repeat, and then with the next key, I'm activating the slowdown. Now you might have noticed there's instantly a problem here because the audio is coming through both of these chains at the moment. What we really want is that the chain is only sending audio when the effect is active. So let's also put the volume onto the macro so that as we turn it up, it's active. We'll do that for the second one. So now it turns the volume up, you can see that here. Now it's going all the way up to 6, so let's quickly turn that down. You can set the chain volume, the maximum chain volume, to 0 for both of those. We go out of map mode. And now when I play it, there's no sound coming through at all because neither of these effects are active. When I activate an effect, I'll do repeat, you hear the effect, or the slowdown. But what we really want is that there's going to be some of the dry signal also coming through, and then that dry signal gets taken away as soon as this comes on. So we're going to add another rack. So we'll group this and open a new chain. We're going to call this chain FX and then add a dry chain. Now when we're playing, the music comes through, and then when we run an effect, you have a mix of the effect and the dry signal. Now the final step is to make sure that the dry signal turns off when the effect comes on. Now we can't map all these macros onto here, so what we're going to do is add a sidechain gate. So let's get the gate device and drop that in here. And we're going to turn the sidechain on. And this is quite important. You have to then take just the output of this effects chain. So we'll take FX bus, FX, that's this chain, there's the dry chain, we'll take post effects. So now when there's sound going through this chain, this dry chain should be muted. We have to set this to flip, and you'll see what I mean. Now I'll play the effect. We've got to set the threshold all the way down to the bottom so that this works properly. And so that it works really quickly, we'll also turn the hold and the release down and the return to 0. So let's show that again now. This is the dry signal, and I'm going to press an effect. There's no wet signal coming through at all, no dry signal coming through at all here, just the wet signal. So that's the basics really. You can add lots and lots of these, and so I'm just going to show you in Blue Peter style the one that I've made earlier. This one here. Just quickly get rid of that. Now you can see I've got exactly the same setup. I've got the gate on this side. I've been messing around with the compressor, but we won't need that. Everything's set to the lowest possible value here. It's flipped so that it's not working like a normal gate, it's just taking audio in from the side chain and working in the opposite direction to a normal gate. Now in the effects I've got 2 chains here. We can map each of these top controls to a different key. So I'll just set these up there, C, D, E, F, and then on the second, G, A, B, C. Below each effect I've got a little control which we can also map. So for example for this one I can set the filter frequency with one knob, and then I can set the repeat speed with another knob here, delay with another knob. There's a little bit of glitching going on there, but you'll get the idea. So now I can do a little performance. That's the filter. Here's the beat repeat. And a delay. You can even have more than one at once, and this is an advantage over audio effect racks which use the chain selector. I can have delay and repeat. Hear that underneath. All of them. And if I go to the second one, you can see there's a nasty chopper, corpus, pitch down, and a pitch shifter. Obviously you can take this as far as you like. If you've got a keyboard with 64 keys, you can have 64 effects, and you just keep adding them in different chains, a separate one, and keep mapping them to the macros. And because you've got a set of macros in each chain, it's pretty much infinite. So I'd finally like to say thanks to the inspiration that I got for this from Walco, who did a YouTube video, very short YouTube video showing the IAC loopback technique that we use here, and to Loudon Stearns, who inspired me with the audio effect rack in the first place. The rack and the actual live set in Live 8 format will be available for download in the About section of this video, and yeah, get back to me in the comments and tell me what kind of creative uses you found for this, and maybe post some of your videos back. I'd like to hear from you. Thanks a lot. I've been Vitamin B. See you soon.